Right, brachiation. Let's just think quickly about brachiation. Brachiation is moving by swinging the arms from one hole to another, like you might do on a horizontal ladder if you want to get fit and do some exercise, or like you see the chimpanzees do in the zoo. Here's a chimpanzee brachiating. I was running out of holes here. And to do this efficiently, it helps have curved finger bones. Our finger bones are straight, but chimpanzees and gorillas and fossil apes have curved finger bones. Here's a picture of some fossil finger bones, and they're actually curved, and that helps you keep hold because you're not just relying on strength, on just muscle to keep yourself there, because your hands actually operate like a hook. You also need specialized shoulder design to actually have your arm in the right position, because we can brachiate moderately well, but not very well. Chimpanzees and apes can do it all day long without getting tired. We can't, because our shoulders are not designed correctly. So you can actually look at the shoulder, you can look at the finger bones, and you can tell whether a creature moved by brachiation or not. Why are semicircular canals important? Well, semicircular canals are very important. If you didn't have semicircular canals, you wouldn't be able to walk around, you'd be falling over all the time. If you know people who suffer from Meniere's syndrome, where they have a problem with their semicircular canals, they can't balance, they just fall over for no apparent reason, because basically they can't tell they're standing upright or not. And our semicircular canals are an organ of position, and sometimes described actually as a sixth sense. It's described as a separate sense. And here's a diagram of semicircular canals. They're basically in your ear, what's the inner ear, behind your eardrum, embedded in the bone of your skull. You have semicircular canals, and there are three semicircular canals oriented 90 degrees to each other, so that you can tell whether you're standing upright or lying down or moving forward or moving backwards, and they help you to balance and help you to position yourself in space. Now, an ape actually has a semicircular canal. It's configured for tree climbing. Now, I haven't got time this evening to go into all the evidence to show you how that works, but we'll look at some of the information that's been collected a bit later on. And humans have a different configuration of the semicircular canals, which is actually configured for bipedal walking, walking around on two legs. And more importantly, it's configured so that we can run. Now, humans are one of the few creatures that can run around on two legs. Now, apes can walk after a fashion, but they certainly can't run, and they certainly can't run a marathon. Human beings are designed to run marathons for some reason. I'm not quite sure what the answer to that would be, so don't ask me afterwards why human beings are designed to run marathons. I have no idea. Same reason horses are designed to run forever. Maybe it's just for fun. But basically, if you're going to run, you need your semicircular canal configured for that. Semicircular canals have to be configured in a certain way to do that. So you can actually do objective measures of the orientation, the size of the semicircular canals, and work out whether you have a creature that's designed to move around in the trees and move around as a knuckle walker, or to move around bipedally standing upright. And people have looked at a gentleman called Fred Spoor, who's a Dutchman who's done a lot of work on semicircular canals, and he basically gets his CAT scanner out, puts skulls inside the CAT scanner, fossil skulls, modern skulls, and looks at the semicircular canals, and he's done quite a lot of published work on that. And he's looked at fossils like Homo erectus and shown conclusively that they have a semicircular canal just like human beings. He's looked at Australopithecus and shown that they have a semicircular canal that is the same as the modern apes that move through the trees and move by knuckle walking. So that's a very rapid tour of some of the techniques that paleontologists used to analyse the fossils and try and work out their lifestyle and the way they moved and the way they lived. Let's try and work out whether they have characteristics that are human or ape-like, or a mixture of the two. So let's look at some of the fossils. We'll start with Ardipithecus. By the way, Pithecus means ape, in case you're wondering. So this is an ape from the Ardi region of Africa. That's probably not the right pronunciation, but it's an ape from that region. And it's an ape-like animal. Nobody contests that. That's uncontroversial. But they are rather fragmentary. There's not very many good fossils for this creature. And here are some of the fragments you get. So a few bits and pieces, teeth and all the rest of it. Teeth and a few bones, leg bones, a bit of a jaw. Not very much evidence, but they are believed, they're about the size of a modern chimpanzee on the basis of the fragments that we can find. And they're believed to be the ancestors of the Australopithecines, which means southern ape, in case you're wondering. And some people try to maintain that they were bipedal, but the evidence is a bit shaky, so I don't think anybody's going to stake their career on claiming that Ardipithecus was bipedal. But they are claimed to have ape-like traits and Australopithecine-like traits. But actually, the evidence from the spinal column and the way the head attaches to the spinal column suggests that they were not completely bipedal. So that's Ardipithecus, supposedly in our family tree. But I think it's an extinct ape, and I think the evidence is fairly strong to show that it's extinct and it's an ape. The question about whether it's an ancestor of human beings is debatable. I just want to mention Tumai, if that's the correct pronunciation, another fossil that was quite discovered a couple of years ago. Has a relatively small cranium, in other words, relatively small skull. Here's a picture of the skull. It's a reasonably complete skull. The interesting thing about it, it's got quite a flat face, which is a characteristic of being human. So people have suggested that actually this might be a human ancestor because it had a flat face. There's only been 5 pieces of jaw bone and some teeth. Brain case is quite small, a small brain, about 150 mil in volume, we would suspect from what evidence we have. Unfortunately, there are no bones below the skull, so we can't really tell very much about how it moved about. But some people have basically concluded that this is a type of gorilla. Looking at the features of the skull, evolutionists have decided that it's probably actually a gorilla or a chimpanzee. And the claim that it could be related to human beings is not very easy to substantiate. Let's come on to Australopithecus, which is arguably the most famous, most well-known fossil ape, suggested to be a human ancestor, considered even today to be the most likely candidate for a human ancestor. And the most famous Australopithecus is Lucy, codenamed AL2881, Lucy. And here she is. Not very much of her, actually, and it's even debatable whether she was female or not. There's been some discussion about that recently, suggesting that maybe it wasn't female after all, but we don't want to spoil a good story. We'll call her Lucy. Everyone knows who you're talking about. Found in 1974, so quite a while ago, in Ethiopia. But all the evidence actually suggests that it was able to move 3 different ways. So it's actually got a mix of characters. It has fingers and feet, which suggest it could have been very good at climbing trees, just like a modern ape. But it also has wrists and fingers which are consistent with knuckle walking, also like the great apes. But its pelvis, the hip bones, of which there are about half the hip is here, slightly over half the hip, suggests that it could have walked upright as well. So we have a creature which seems to be able to move 3 different ways, moving through trees by brachiation, moving by knuckle walking, and actually being able to stand upright and walk around upright as well.